This West Coast thing here now is, as this term has grown, it's almost like referring to something as a soft drink. There's so many different varieties that you can get, and it's the same thing with this now. There are many teams that either they themselves or other people categorize as the so-called West Coast that we can look at, and there's very little similarity in the patterns that they run. So I think now a lot of different teams have put their own spin on it, but what it generally refers to is relatively short drop, quick throw, timing patterns. And then it's up to the team to choose those particular patterns. What I think what we see in a short exposure, that is just these two games, is a resemblance to the offense that's being run in Denver, which makes sense since the offensive coordinator spent a significant amount of time there before he came to Syracuse. Which means, number one, that they have probably philosophically a much stronger interest in running the ball than Western Michigan did. And Denver's always been a dedicated running team to go along with their rhythm passing game.
Now, within that concept, what does Rhodes bring to the table for them as a playmaker?
Well, he's a size running back, which if you're going to run the ball quite a few times in the game, size is a factor in durability, and he's got size.
Just in general, what do you tell us here before it's first game on the road against a pretty good team in an atmosphere like this?
Well, we've tried to this is not only a little bit different atmosphere. Obviously, none of these players have any experience playing in a dome. None of them have any experience playing on field turf, and all of them have limited or no experience against this particular opponent. So taking all of those things together, we've tried to do as we do every week, but we've had to fill in more information on the kind of the who, what, where, and when categories.
What is your situation at tailback if Wally can't play? Is Michael still the first?
Well, we got Pierman and Johnson and Snelling, all of whom played it last week, and then we'll be getting Michael Simpson a few turns during the bye week, just to try to get, not necessarily for the immediacy, but as it might extend later into the season, to get him a little bit more up on key with what we're doing. So we think we got pretty decent playable depth there, Jeff.
Talk about the use of Snelling at tailback. Would he have played much tailback if Wally had not gone down?
Well, he's taken turns at tailback all through training camp. So, as we've said before, Doug, he's effective at moving he's proven over his career that he's effective at moving the ball, whether we've given it to him or thrown it to him. He's not your garden variety battering ram fullback. Get the ball twice during the course of the season. So, as such, and in recognizing what his skills are, while he does do a good job at those conventional fullback tasks, we tried to make sure that he has gotten some background there so we can also utilize his running skills.
Do you expect to have Wally?
We're just going day to day.
Would you like to get into our pool on when Brooks makes his first appearance of the season?
Yeah, it'd be pretty good. I'd probably have about.
Make the first pick.
I'd probably have about as good a chance of winning as you guys do.
With Robinson's background now on this defensive guy, have you seen a lot of significant changes in their defense?
In the Syracuse style play? Oh yes, very definitely. I mean, there was a very definite pattern established over the years, Jerry, of how Paul Pasqualoni and his staff wanted to play defense, and in his last 3 stops, as all of us do, Greg has established a pattern of how his teams play defense, and so there's, as you say, there's a pretty big difference.
Coach, have you worked on, obviously going up to the Carry Domes can be very loud up there. A lot of teams have commented on that. Have you worked on any type of audibling system if Marcus wants to make a change to the line? Hand signals, how do you go about doing that?
Well, we this is this is a smaller dome. I think it's the only dome out there under 60,000, which means, of course, the roof is lower, and the people are closer to you. So just because it's not the same capacity as some of the other domes, it really is working in reverse. I'm told it's as loud or louder than any of them because of those reasons, even though there'll be less people in total numbers there. But still, there are some very loud places that we've gone and we have to go. So it's one of those things that in anticipation of, loud environments, lots of places, we try to work on those things early enough in the year so that it's not a novel thing when we get to a stage like this. Well, we're trying to get him a little bit all the time, Ed. He's a player of significant potential. We're able to get him in the game a little bit the other day, so can't say that maybe there were any tremendous learning experiences from that, other than he's had to run out there where he was responsible for something. He's had to show up at the ballpark knowing that he's going in the game, not just, hey, I'm dressing out. Maybe that's a first stage for a lot of players. It was, intriguing. It was not a new lesson for all of us who are on the road this weekend, but just kind of a renewal of that, or a reminder of that lesson, is just to go to all these different high school games and how stark the contrast is from what these players were involved with last year and those who are playing this year, what they're involved with. It's certainly, and it struck home to us in that we had a number of players doing the same thing, relative thing, with us leaving us and going to play in their first NFL game. And yet, here's Heath Miller or Elton Brown. They're going to start in the game, but look, they've played in front of 65,000 people lots of times. And yet, to be at the sites that we were at this year and to see where these players were, these young players were playing just a year ago, and then now they are at that. That's a much bigger transition than what the college player is making to go be an NFL rookie. So it was a good reminder to us just about some of the patience that's necessary to develop these players and some of the exposure that they need to bring them along. So some of them, that's what we were trying to do in that first game, just get them into the process. But he is, to answer your question, a player of significant promise, and his contributions probably will be needed and will be quite beneficial if we can get him. So we're trying to kind of step it up with him a little bit, Ed.
Aaron Clark, you said early on, he remains on the 2 deep. Is it still any question in your mind whether he's going to play? Is he a guy could possibly be redshirted?
We're not thinking in terms of redshirting anybody right now. Okay, our mentality is always the same. Okay, when they're ready, we're ready. If they can help us, then win a game or make it easier to win a game that we otherwise might have had more difficulty with, then we'll use them. If the process is such that they're never quite ready to help us, then they kind of just evolve into that they got redshirted category. It aids protection. Obviously, the shorter amount of time the quarterback has the ball in his hands, the less likely he is to get hit. So that's a lot of the thinking behind the offense in the first place. You see that
still did what's somewhat.
a little bit, sure. I mean, you just can't sit there and do nothing and become a target. But got to moderate those things, that they're direct pressures. There's not as many loops and games and things that take a little while longer to get there. Now, obviously, the trade-off offensively is that one of the critical principles of the West Coast offense and the way that the people who run it and run the real, when I say West Coast, I'm really thinking, and now I'm using the term that I said before, it doesn't have much meaning anymore to me, but the Bill Walsh style offense, that one of the things that they saw as a critical issue there was yards after the catch, because there's not going to be a lot of yards as a result of the throw. So, in fact, one of the Bill Walsh tenets that's in it, that he says repeatedly in his book, that in his offense as he was running it, 50% of all the passing yardage should come on run after the catch. So that's what you're banking on. If there's not much run after the catch, then you have a lot of short throws, a lot of catches for minimal yardage that don't amount to a great deal of production. So that's what if there's not a lot of run after the catch, then if you look at the numbers, wow, this team completed X amount of percent, it may not have really accomplished as much as those type of numbers would indicate, unless you see what the run after the catch.
Last year,